I accidentally saw my roommate changing. She looked at me and said, "Help me finish." She was standing in the middle of the room with her back to the door, one hand twisted behind her shoulder, reaching for a zipper she couldn't quite get to. I had already seen too much to pretend I hadn't opened it. And she turned around, not panicked, not screaming, not throwing something at me. She just looked at me with those steady gray eyes and said, "Since you're already here, help me finish." I stood in that doorway for what felt like a full minute. The zipper was on a bridesmaid dress. The wedding was in 4 hours. And the woman asking for my help had spent the last 6 months being the exact person I had been trying my best not to notice. My name is Marcus Reyes, 32 years old. I run a small independent bookshop called Margin Notes in downtown Portland, Oregon. The kind of place that smells like old paper and espresso, where people come in asking for one thing and leave with 3. I have owned it for 4 years. Before that, I spent 2 years writing for a literary magazine that eventually went under, which I am not bitter about most days. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building near the river. High ceilings, 1 functioning radiator, a kitchen window that sticks shut every November. I have lived there for 3 years. I am telling you all of this from a Tuesday morning, sitting in the back corner of my own shop with a cold coffee beside me, knowing exactly how the story ends and still not entirely sure how I got there. Her name is Nadia Farrow. She moved into the 2nd bedroom 8 months ago. I want to be accurate about this because it matters to everything that comes after it. Nadia did not move in because we were friends. She moved in because my previous roommate, a medical student named Derek, had accepted a residency placement in Boston with 3 weeks' notice and left me needing someone to cover rent in a city where good apartments disappeared in 48 hours. My friend Priya knew someone. That someone was Nadia. She arrived on a Thursday evening with 4 boxes, a second-hand reading chair, and a jade plant she called Bernard. She was polite. She asked before using the stovetop. She kept her side of the shared bathroom organized with a precision that made me feel quietly embarrassed about my side, which was not organized at all. I will tell you what I thought of her in those first 2 months. I thought she was composed, private, the kind of person who had already decided where the boundaries were before she ever needed to draw them. She worked from home, something in UX design, and I would hear her in the morning through the wall on calls with clients, calm and specific, the kind of voice that makes the person on the other end feel like they are in good hands. We were friendly. We were not close. That was the arrangement, and I respected it because I had learned, after 2 failed relationships in my late 20s, that the fastest way to ruin a comfortable situation was to want more from it than it was offering. I am telling you this because I want to be honest about the man who was standing in that doorway in October. I had not been careless. I had not been reading more into things than was there. I had kept my side of the boundary neatly, but I had noticed her, and noticing, I had learned, was the beginning of everything I was not supposed to start. The first thing I noticed was the jade plant. Not Bernard himself, though he was thriving. She talked to him, quietly, under her breath, the way people talk to plants when they think nobody can hear them. I caught 3 words once while I was passing the hallway. She was saying, "You're doing fine." I do not know why that stayed with me. It did. The second thing was a paperback she left on the kitchen table for an entire week. It was a novel I had read in college, one I had thought about regularly since. The copy she had was a different edition than mine. I almost asked about it twice. Both times, I decided against it because asking about a book is not a neutral question. Not when the book is that particular one. Asking about a book is the same as saying, "Tell me something that matters to you." I was not ready for that answer to become a problem. The third thing was smaller. One rainy evening in late September, I came back from closing the shop to find her sitting on the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet, knees pulled up, reading with the overhead light off and just the small lamp from the living room reaching her. It was not dramatic. She had probably sat there 100 times. But something about it, the rain on the window, the lamp light, the total stillness of her, hit me in a place I had been careful about protecting. I made tea. I offered her a cup. She said yes without looking up from the page. That was the closest we had come to a real conversation in 2 months. I set the mug beside her on the floor and went to bed. I did not sleep for a long time. I am telling you all of this because the morning of the zipper was not the beginning. Felt like the beginning, but it was actually the middle of something that had been quietly building for longer than I had let myself admit. The day before the wedding, Priya came over for dinner. She was the one who had connected me and Nadia originally, which made her a person who had watched both of us from a comfortable distance. Priya was not subtle about most things. She sat at my kitchen table eating pasta and said, without preamble, "You two are unbearable." Nadia was out. I was alone with the accusation. "We're fine," I said. "I watch you both pretend the other person isn't in the room," she said. "It's physically painful. We're roommates. Marcus, we're roommates, Priya." She pointed her fork at me with the calm authority of someone who had been right about things before. "The wedding's tomorrow." She's stressed. Her dress has a back zipper and she mentioned twice that it's difficult. That is not information shared by accident. I told Priya she was building a story out of nothing. She told me I had a bookshop and should know better than anyone how stories started. I went to bed telling myself Priya was projecting. I was still telling myself that at 9 in the morning when I knocked on the wrong door. My room and Nadia's shared a wall. The bathroom was across the hall. I had been half asleep. I thought I was knocking on the bathroom door. The two doors looked identical in the morning light. They were not identical. I had lived there 3 years and I knew they were not identical. I have no useful explanation for what happened. The door was not fully latched. The door swung inward 2 full seconds before I understood what I had done. She was in the center of the room. Burgundy dress, one arm twisted backward, reaching for the top of a zipper that stopped about 4 inches short of her shoulder blades. Her hair was pinned up in a way that made it clear she had already spent 20 minutes on it. There was a heel on the floor and a heel on the bed. The room smelled like whatever perfume she wore on formal occasions, warm and clean, something with cedar in it. She turned her head, saw me, held eye contact for 1 long second. She was not embarrassed. That was the thing I could not account for. She was not startled, not flustered, not reaching for a throw blanket or backing toward the closet. She just looked at me with those gray eyes and said it flat, matter-of-fact, almost dry. "Since you're already here, help me finish." I should have said something intelligent. I said, "The zipper?" "The zipper," she confirmed. I walked across the room. I am not going to tell you I was calm. I was not calm. My pulse was at a level that would have concerned a cardiologist. I stood behind her, took the small pull between 2 fingers, and drew it up slowly. The fabric pulled together cleanly. It met at the nape of her neck just below the edge of her pinned hair. I stepped back. She turned around and looked down at the dress, smoothing the front with both palms. "Thank you," she said. "Of course." She looked up. For a half second, neither of us said anything. The lamp on her dresser caught the side of her face. Outside, Portland was doing its usual November thing, gray and wet against the window glass. Then she said, "You knocked on the wrong door." I did. Classic move. The corner of her mouth moved. Not a full smile. Something more careful than that. Something that suggested she was letting me see it on purpose. I backed out of the room and pulled her door gently shut. I stood in the hallway for about 30 seconds doing nothing useful. She left for the wedding at noon with her friend Cora, whom I had met exactly once in the kitchen. I did not see her leave. I was pretending to reorganize a shelf in my room. I went to the shop that afternoon and sat in the back with inventory I was not actually checking. My employee at the time was a 24-year-old named Theo, who had opinions about everything and kept most of them to himself except when he sensed I was distracted, at which point he would lean against the counter and say something so precise it was embarrassing. "You're counting the same box twice," he said. "I know. Do you want to talk about what you're actually thinking about?" "No." He nodded. He went back to the register. 3 minutes later he said, from across the room without turning around, "For what it's worth, people don't put their arm behind their back and mention the zipper to someone they want to keep at a distance." I told him I hadn't told him anything about a zipper. He shrugged. "You didn't have to." I closed up early and went home. She was already there when I got back. The wedding had ended, apparently, in the specific way that weddings end when two people realize in the middle of the reception that they should have been more honest with each other 3 months ago. The bride had cried, which was expected. The groom's brother had given a toast that went 3 minutes too long. Nadia had eaten 2 pieces of cake and left at 8. She was in the kitchen in the bridesmaid dress still, bare feet on the tile, making tea. The dress looked different in the apartment light. More real somehow, like it had become a regular piece of clothing by surviving the whole day. She looked up when I came in. "You're home early," she said. "Slow evening." I set my bag down. I did not go to my room. I went to the cabinet for a glass, filled it at the tap, and stood at the counter across from her. "How was it?" I asked. "Emotional and overlong," she said. "Beautiful also." Those things were both true at the same time. Weddings usually are. She wrapped both hands around her mug. Her hair was half down now, the pins removed sometime during the reception, the rest falling loose the way things fall loose at the end of a long day. There was a small smudge of what might have been icing near her wrist. She had not noticed it. The bride, Nadia said, almost didn't go through with it. Not because she didn't love him, because she was afraid that saying it out loud in front of 100 people made it something she could lose. I looked at her. Did she go through with it? She did. Nadia paused. She told me afterward she just stopped waiting for the fear to go away and walked anyway. She said it quietly. She was looking into her mug when she said it. But I knew she was not really talking about the bride. I knew because I had been living across the hall from her for 8 months, and I had learned in that time the difference between the things she said and the things she was actually saying. I set my glass down. "Nadia." She looked up. "I knocked on the wrong door this morning." "I know," she said. "I told you that. I'm telling you I'm not sorry about it." She went very still. The kettle on the stove clicked off behind her. Steam rose in a thin line between us. "Marcus," she said carefully, "we live together. I know. If we," she stopped, started again. "If this gets complicated, we can't just move to the guest bedroom. There is no guest bedroom. I know that too. So, you've thought about this." I looked at her honestly. "I've been trying not to think about it since September." She set the mug down on the counter. Both hands resting on the tile now, fingers spread slightly. She was doing the thing I had learned she did when she was deciding something carefully. Weighing it, turning it over. "September," she repeated. "What happened in September?" "You were sitting on the kitchen floor," I said, "reading. The light was from the living room. It was raining." She looked at me with an expression I could not entirely name. Something between recognition and something softer than that. "I thought you didn't notice," she said. "I made you tea. You made tea and then went to bed." "Because I didn't know what else to do with the information," I said. "We did not kiss that night. I want to be clear about that because what happened was quieter and, I think, more important than a kiss would have been. We sat at the kitchen table until almost midnight. We talked about the things people talk about when they have been careful around each other for months and finally stop being careful. Her family in Montreal. The design project she was most proud of that she almost never mentioned. The magazine that shut down. The specific kind of quiet a bookshop has at 7 in the morning before it opens, when it belongs entirely to the person inside it. She told me she had read the book I noticed on the kitchen table. Had read it 3 times, actually. The first time in college. The second time after something ended that she did not name yet. The third time 2 weeks after she moved in, because she had seen the same edition on my shelf and it had made her feel like she was living in a strange and coincidental story. I told her that was not a coincidence. That was 2 people who had read the same sentences and let them mean something. She laughed. A real one, soft and slightly startled. Like she had not expected the night to go this direction. At some point, Bernard the jade plant was visible on the counter behind her, thriving in the November dark. I told her I had heard her talking to the plant once. She covered her face with one hand. "Please don't. You said you're doing fine." To a plant. I thought it was a good thing to say. She lowered her hand, looked at me across the table. "Why?" "Because sometimes that's the only thing a person needs to hear and nobody says it." She held that for a second. Then very quietly, "You're doing fine, Marcus." It was not a declaration. It was something better than that. It was a recognition, the kind that takes months to earn. I looked at her in the low kitchen light, the bridesmaid dress and the bare feet and the mug and the jade plant and 8 months of careful, deliberate distance. And I understood that the distance had not been empty. It had been full of things we were both slowly deciding. "You never did ask about the book," she said. I wanted to. I kept stopping myself. Why? Because asking about a book is not a neutral question. She smiled then. Not the careful, guarded version. The real one. The one that changed the temperature of the room. "No," she said. "It isn't." The next morning was a Sunday. I came out of my room at 7:30 and found her already at the kitchen table with the book open. Coffee going, Bernard on the counter catching the early light. She looked up, said nothing for a moment. Then I marked a page, the one I always go back to. She pushed the book across the table. I sat down. I looked at the page. I read the paragraph she had marked with a small folded corner. It was a passage about two people who had been circling each other for years without ever admitting that what they were doing was circling. The narrator calls it the most expensive kind of patience. I looked up at her. She was watching me with her hands around the coffee mug, waiting to see if I understood it. "I understand it," I said. "I know you do," she said. "That's why I didn't say anything for 8 months." I reached across the table and turned the book over so I could see the cover. Ran my thumb along the spine. "You want to get breakfast?" I asked. "I want to get breakfast," she said. That was it. That was the whole thing. No grand speech. No moment where the music swelled and the rain came down perfectly. Just two people at a kitchen table with cold light coming through a stuck window, choosing to stop circling. I want to tell you the part that came later because anyone can start something. Continuing it is the harder work. The first week was easy in the way first weeks always are when you have finally stopped pretending. We cooked dinner without it being an event. We argued about the thermostat, which she kept lower than any reasonable person should, and I lost the argument completely and have continued to lose it every winter since. I started asking about the book without stopping myself. She started answering. The first hard thing happened about a month in. Her ex-boyfriend, a man named Julian, came back into the picture in the way ex-boyfriends come back when they hear through the network that the person they used to be with has moved on. He did not call. He sent her a long message on a Wednesday evening. I did not read it. I did not ask to. But I came home and found her sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop closed in front of her and her hands flat on either side of it, staring at nothing. I put my bag down. I put the kettle on. I made 2 cups of tea without being asked. I sat across from her and set one down. She looked at it, then at me. Julian messaged. "Okay," I said. "He wants to talk. What do you want?" She was quiet for a moment. I don't want to talk to him. But I did for 3 years, so it's not a clean line. I looked at her honestly. "I'm not going to ask you to make it clean. Just honest." She picked up the mug. He told me I was too internal, too private. That being with me was like trying to read a book someone kept closing. I let that sit for a second. "What did you tell him?" I told him that was about him, not me. "Was it?" She met my eyes. Yes. I believed her. Not because I needed to, but because I had lived with her long enough to know that what Julian had called too internal was something else entirely. It was careful. It was the kind of quiet a person keeps when they are paying attention to everything around them. It was sitting on a kitchen floor reading in the dark and not needing an audience for it. I reached across the table, not for her hand. I turned the book that was sitting between us right side up so we could both see the cover. "Tell me the second reason you read it," I said. She looked at me. "I told you, after something ended. Tell me about that." And she did. Not all of it that night, but enough. The way she talked piece by piece, testing each part before handing it over. The way her voice changed when she got to the part that had actually hurt. The way she looked at me after each piece to see if I was still there. I was still there. She did not respond to Julian. Bernard grew 3 new leaves by February. Nadia told him he was doing extremely well. I watched her say it from the kitchen doorway and I did not say anything because some things do not need commentary. She caught me watching and pointed at the plant. "You're allowed to talk to him too." I don't know what to say to a plant. "Say something true," she said. "That's all he asks." I walked to the counter. I looked at Bernard. I said, "I think this is the best apartment I've ever lived in." Nadia leaned against the counter beside me. She did not look at me when she said it. She said it into the kitchen the way people say things when the saying matters more than the performance. Me too. In March, I redesigned a small section of the shop. The back corner where the reading chairs were. I had been thinking about it for years but never done it because the shop had always felt like it belonged to a version of me that was fine being alone in it, and changing it felt like admitting I wanted it to belong to something else. I moved the chairs. I added a second lamp. I put in a small two-person table where people could sit without having to be reading. Just being in the space was enough. Theo noticed the first morning. He walked in, looked at the corner, looked at me and said nothing for a full minute. Then the table was the right call. "It was time," I said. "It was about 8 months past time," he said. "But we'll accept late." Nadia came by that afternoon with Bernard. She set the plant on the windowsill near the new lamp because, she said, he deserved to see more of the world. I did not argue. She sat at the small table with a client brief and worked for 2 hours. She did not ask if it was okay. She just came in, put the plant down, and sat. That was the moment I understood that something had changed that I was not going to be able to reverse, and did not want to. The night I told her I loved her was not a planned moment. It was a Thursday in April. We had ordered Thai food, which we did every Thursday because some things become rituals without anyone deciding they should. She was on the kitchen floor, her back against the cabinet. Reading. Same lamplight as that first September night, different book. I was at the table, looking at her. She looked up without me saying anything. Caught me. "What?" she said. "Nothing." She went back to the page. Then, after a moment, "You're doing it again." "Doing what?" Looking at me like I'm a book you're trying to decide whether to open. I set my food down. "I already opened it," I said. She looked up again. Slower this time. "I love you," I said. That's what I was trying not to say out loud. She held my eyes for a long moment. The lamp was still doing what it always did. The Thai food was going cold between us. Bernard was on the counter in the background, doing fine. She closed the book, stood up from the floor, walked to the table, sat in the chair across from me. She said, "I've been in love with you since September." "The kitchen floor," I said. "The kitchen floor," she confirmed. "You made me tea and then went to bed and I sat there for 20 more minutes trying to understand what had just happened to me." I laughed. She did too. It was not the kind of laugh that broke tension. It was the kind that came from finally being in the same room as the truth. I am going to tell you one last thing. 6 months after that Thursday, I found a small handmade card on top of the new edition of our book, the one we had bought together from a shop in Seattle during a weekend in June. She had folded it in half and left it on my pillow. On the front, in her handwriting, was one line from the passage she had marked. "The most expensive kind of patience." On the inside, she had written, "Worth every penny." I still have the card. It lives inside the back cover of the book. The book lives on the shelf in the shop, in the back corner, near the small two-person table where she worked that first afternoon with Bernard on the windowsill. I leave it there on purpose. Some stories deserve to be in a place where they can be found. I think about the wrong door sometimes. How 2 seconds slower and I would have knocked on the bathroom. How she would have gotten to the wedding with the zipper half done and a stranger would have fixed it and nothing would have been any different between us. Or maybe it would have been different anyway. Maybe it was already building towards something and the door was just the clearest exit it could find. That is the thing about these quiet, slow-building stories. There is never one moment that made everything. There is only the accumulation of all the small ones. The plant, the book, the tea made without being asked, the September floor, the mark on a page, and sometimes a zipper.